Okay, that's what I was going to ask. So CERN EMR would be like a global app that we would want to have published. So that's public now.
Yeah.
All right.
That's cool. Yeah. No.
So we might refer, like that example, I might refer to the process you went through to grab that as we're going through, because that's like a key kind of reason. Anyone else? Eric, I think were you shaking your?
Yeah, there's similar reasons for them just to identify the.
Okay.
I also really like that email. I don't know if it came out from you or it was like one of the general broadcasts from Palo Alto Networks, that you had the app for the double NCAA March Madness already pre-built.
Yep.
I implemented that, and unfortunately nobody was dumb enough to call the service desk. Why doesn't this work? Or why does it load really slow? Because I did my QoS Class A trick, and but I really like that too. So I'm like wondering what other use cases can I figure out? Like this particular streaming app on this website, and I don't want to restrict other streaming sites, or I want to make sure that the videos on our corporate training site load fast.
Yep.
So
you want to have a QoS for videos on your corporate training
Yes.
site. Isn't it good? Yep. It's good ones. And what you'll see is if during major sporting events, you're going to see that we usually release a custom app ID already pre-configured for those major sporting events. So like that's one of the first places we can start is World Cup has been going on. I don't follow it that closely. It's been going on for a while. I think they're in the finals, right? This weekend's the finals? It's over now?
I must have missed the email.
Oh, it's over this week. Okay.
Yeah, Sunday.
Because I would have implemented this.
So as you look at, to do the FIFA one in here, there was this pre-built XML file that you can actually get off the live site. So there is, I might have the live site, maybe not. So there's this pre-built XML file. I think I opened it in my notepad so you can see what the XML looks like. Nope, I did not open it.
On the live site, is this like a custom tag or URL that I could go to? Like, hey, we just released this one because this is happening. Like, if I can bookmark that page and
Yeah.
know exactly, check it every few weeks.
So there's live custom resources. So here's like the link that you go to on live that'll have the variety of these, and it's got some other stuff in here as well. Maybe reason permission denied. That's not great. It's gonna make me authenticate. So is it authenticates here? I will swing back to that in a second, but so there's that XML file that we open up in here. Here's what it looks like. So as you're looking at what does a threat look like, when you look at an app ID in general, there's a couple things that we're doing to define an app ID, and we're doing those same type of things to define a custom app ID. So like for here, for example, we've got a couple of different conditions that we're matching. We're matching video up top, and we're saying, okay, this is Fox Sports, and we're looking for that Fox Sports / Fox Sports underscore _1, and we're looking for it in the HTTP request URI path. We're looking for this right here in the HTTP request URI path. We're looking for Soccer FIFA World Cup in the HTTP headers request. And continuing on down, these are all of the types of things that we're looking at in this particular signature with and conditions or conditions, looking for stuff in the Akamai stream.
So quick question. So if you had a policy in your firewall and you had just this app identified, in that app ID, you're essentially identifying in that app ID domains and characteristics. So you don't necessarily have to say, destination IP or destination URL category.
Correct.
Just based on the app ID itself.
Correct.
It's doing filtering without even URL or destination.
Correct.
IP.
It's working just like the applications are that when you have normal traffic. So if you've got like Telnet traffic or Facebook traffic or something like that, technically you could be running those on any page, but it's specifically looking for, it doesn't matter what port, what protocol it's going on, we're looking for this because you don't see inside of these definitions, nowhere inside of that definition do you see this port, this protocol, this whatever, unless that's going to be required to be part of that actual application.
Wow.
This is where we're looking at the layer 7 details of what's going on to be able to identify the context of where an application is.
And the patterns that I'm seeing is this standard regex?
Yeah.
Basically.
So, yep. So as you look at how do we actually get there, probably the number one document that you want to look if you're going to be developing this is this creating custom signatures tech note. There's a couple of different versions out. Rev E is the latest that I found. And you can look at the various different contexts that you can build policies around. So here's all of the context that we have made publicly exposed that you can build rule sets around. So this is the type of stuff as we look through a packet header, as we look through the file to identify that application, this is the type of stuff that we're looking for to match. And it's in the app ID, but you can also build threat signatures in here as well. So like another use case that is not strictly custom app ID, but a custom threat signature was people who are trying to meet PCI compliance. PCI now has this rule, you need to be at TLS 1.2. You can't be at TLS anything older. Well, by default, we don't have a custom threat signature that says, show me everything that's running TLS 1.0. But I want to create that, so now I can see if this is in my PCI security zone, and I see this traffic that's crossing there is TLS 1.0, I know I need to address that problem. And it's not something that, like, we're not going to be able to fix it, but now you know this vendor or whoever it is, this system is violating that PCI requirement, so I can go and I can address that system, upgrade that system, do whatever. So that's using the same context here. And if I go to like vulnerability, custom objects vulnerability, you see that there's server responses here. When you're going to build this, like in this case, you have to specify a thread ID. You specify the properties here. You want to make sure that these properties are going to be correct for how you want to kind of correlate them. You can put references in there. Like I heard other people, there was another customer, I think you guys, right? Yeah. I think he built one for like an HTTP header for something. I don't remember.
He was working on something that used I don't think it's probably working the way he wants it to.
Okay. It was like a Tor agent, or it was something, like some specialized header that he wanted to know what was going on. So he built this signature. So as you go through here, I'm going to click into it. What you see is we had this AND condition. We had a context. Context was SSL RSP version, and it matched 769. And so that means if that's in that particular HTTP header, that's what it's going to be. I think if I, do I have an packet capture? No, I don't think I have a packet capture on this one. So if you look in the packet capture though, any packet capture that's got SSL traffic, you will see that SSL response header. And that's what we were matching here to be able to determine what it was. This page should be loaded. So here's where that page was when you were asking about like what they are.
Oh, yeah.
So this page posts new applications. New apps for July release. This is important. This side note that's super important is for SharePoint Online, for anyone who's using Office 365, we're adding additional definitions for SharePoint Online in the July 17th release. So the new apps are going to be released. Those are going to go in place in August, where they're actually going to start functioning. So the new applications are going to be functions like uploading, downloading. There's 4 of them. I don't remember the other 2. You need to specifically, if you allow those functions and you're using the SharePoint Online application to allow that, you need to go in there and add those additional functions before it goes live in August. Because it's only going to match the base file after that point. It's not going to match the new additional sub function. Make sense?
Do you have to do SSL decryption to hit those additional upload download?
It did not. There's a tech note on it. I think they said no. That you didn't. I think because there are separate SNIs that it was triggering off of. You still want to do SSL decryption for control of threats and inspection and wildfire analysis. Whoops. There's an FAQ for that, I believe. Reaper?
Yeah, he's everywhere.
Yeah, he's very
I don't know. Do you know who it is?
No
No.
one really knows.
He's there.
He's busy.
We can see if he'll come speak. What do you want him to speak about?
How we can put some of the articles out.
Yeah.
What do you do all day? He sips on coffee and writes articles.
He's like, I've automated all my stuff with everything so much that I have time.
I mean, I'm sure he's like our community manager.
Honestly, you didn't hear anything like autographs except for hundreds of articles.
All right, that'll be the request. We want the community manager to come out so we can sign the autographs. All
I
right.
would say he's probably, I've read some of his articles that have actually helped me understand some of the stuff that I just couldn't figure out.
Here, man. Like, seriously, he's amazing on it.
All
I
right.
think he's the
Well-
one that taught me by reading his article why I was having issues with PGP on the Palo Alto. He's like, oh no, if you do this, you have to make sure you do this too. I'm like, that doesn't make sense why it's doing that, but now I understand it. So now I understand why I need to do that. So
Okay. All right, I'll ask. We'll see what we can do.
But they're not going to tell you.
So here you see the policies that are going in. It's really small on here, but here's what's getting added that needs. Is that not loading? Oh, it still is. Okay. There's what's happening. So downloading, editing, sharing, and uploading are going to be different functions.
So the base doesn't include those?
The base currently includes those today. Those are going to be separate functions from the base in August when this actually goes live.
So you're saying if you have a policy currently, you need to go add those individually?
You will, after July 17th, you'll need to go add those individual functions to
Okay,
allow
yeah,
those.
okay.
yeah, we'll take a look at that.
I will send a note out once we hit the July 17th to the community email.
Yeah,
but
that's a good idea. Because you don't want to come in on a morning and on a Monday and then one can't get to SharePoint.
yeah, and this is based off of this is the way we built these. They're based off of the SNI. I believe there's somewhere in here. There's a much more detailed article, and I believe it's based off the SNI that we're changing that. That's why we don't have to do decryption to be able to put that in place. Because the SNI is one of the things that if you're building custom app ID and it still is SSL encrypted, you still can, at least today in TLS 1.2, you can see that. TLS 1.3, that's going to change because I think that's supposed to be encrypted in the TLS 1.3 headers. But today in TLS 1.2, you can see that. So if I take a look at another example of what types of things do we want to build, or what can we do from this? The CERN one. What did you, when they had you gather the stuff for CERN, Dylan? What types of information did you need to gather?
I need to get packet captures on every single platform we have, which is, there's a lot of them, 12 of them or so. Mostly with our server environment, it's remote hosted in Kansas City, so I runs through Citrix sessions, so of course that versus base Citrix tracker. Not really a lot you can do about that, but the big focus on was for background. So what I had to do was, get a bunch of different SPCs from different clinical areas, and then run Wireshark captures live on specific clinical functions inside each application. Stop the capture, make some notes on, hey, this is when I open the patient's chart, and this when we're doing this. So they need to see all the different workflows and optimally do it.
Did you help in any part of that building, or did you just turn the?
It was mainly used by everyone to
So this was the app ID that you guys
Yep.
helped them build. Okay. So as you get to like additional functions, one of the things inside of here is maybe you needed to know, here's a different function inside of Cerner that somebody is, like I think for Epic, which is another healthcare one, there's different functions inside of Epic that people can go to, like, this is the customer side, this is the administrator side, this is like the health posting. There's a breakdown of some of those.
Yeah, we could go further with this for earning the time and what they allow for us to do in the project. That's as far as we went. But absolutely, we were planning later on down the road to make one of these for each different client application, different back client for workflow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see that being really helpful for like users that like you should never be able to use this particular module, so I'm going to say only users of this group or this Active Directory group or this particular user can use this particular module. Which is
And another good place where this can be used is like we talked industrial control systems. So when you get to industrial control systems, there's different functions inside of those industrial control systems. I think one of the ones that, if I remember right, that we're better at is one called Modbus. And so this is Modbus's industrial control system. And as you look at all the different functions in here, these might exist in other ones. So like Siemens, or I don't know, what are some of the other, yeah, there you go. So as you look at those and you're saying, okay, I'm inside of this or this PLC, this particular user needs to be able to do file record, but should never be able to do a file write, for example, because I don't like this is just an audit or something like that that's going to be gathering, and I don't want them to ever write a change to my PLC. That's the type of information where you can use these custom app IDs to gather this to really define what's happening. So those are like good examples of where to use custom app IDs.
What I do is one kind of you do have to be careful depending on what kind of app that you're trying to develop, because certain companies, particularly when they don't understand the full scope of this, might have legal issues with it. I kind of went on that path early on just to make sure it was covering my bases. And at the end of the day, what they said was, sure, we don't mind if you reverse engineer us to figure out how it works, but we don't really want anything to do with it. But I will say that just from talking with the engineers that I did, they have had issues where they're trying to load app IDs for a company that thinks that you're doing something, stealing intellectual property or whatever, so you do have to be careful sometimes.
Yeah, that's like, I know we hit that on Epic, but the Epic, the organization, did not want us building custom app IDs from theirs, but they basically said if we can get a customer to give us that information, then we can build it off the customer. We're just not allowed to build it off of with Epic directly, that organization.
That was one of the reasons why we stopped at just the base server category instead of going further, because it took us about 6 months just to get that far. A few more months for us to fully intern test it and release it to the rest of the world. So it is, especially when you're working with support, even those guys are awesome, but it is an involved process and it takes some time.
Yeah. Why is this popping up? So to kind of go through the process of building it, how would you guys, you've got this interesting application or this interesting thing that you want to build it. You're getting unknown TCP traffic. It's something that you either need to identify so you know what it is, or you want to be able to do some additional context and QoS that traffic. What would be your guys' first steps? Packet capture. Great. How many people have used the packet? You know you can do a packet capture in the firewall, right?
Yes.
How many people have used packet captures in the firewalls?
Several times. They're great for proving to people that there aren't issues when they continue to insist there are issues. And I can clearly show them, I'm like, well, this is it traversing the network back and forth, and I see it happening on the other side sending a reset.
We've used it before to, we had a website that wouldn't respond to us. Like, we'd send it TCP sent, but we'd never get SYNAP back.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we proved to a user that our firewall, we were sending it out, but we must have been like blocked by the other side. So we actually used a packet capture, open in Wireshark, and we could see we weren't getting synapse back, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, the beautiful part of that though is normally get the, well, you got to fix this. I'm like, here, we cannot fix it.
Yeah, it works great. It works great.
For those of you who have not used it, you're going to find the packet capture here in the monitor section. if you're looking for something specific, I'd highly recommend going and doing this manage filters, and then you can go through here and you can define a couple of different filters on either interface. Usually it's going to be source destination IP, so you know what you're looking for. Source and destination port protocol if you've got it. So you've got some basic layer 4 settings that you have from a filtering perspective to try and narrow it down. And then the other difference of when you set up the stage, you essentially have to go in here and set, where do I want to capture that packet at? Because we're able to capture at 4 different stages in the firewall. We're able to capture at the receive stage, so the packets come in, it's going through the firewall, so we're at the security stage. If we see it get dropped, we'll see it drop at that level, and we'll also see the transmit stage. So you can capture it at any of those points, depending on what you're getting. You can also capture it at multiple points. So this is, if you ever get to the case where somebody's like, the firewall's causing latency, I know it's the firewall's fault, the firewall's causing latency, you can validate whether it is or not by doing a capture at both the receive and the transmit phase. That's going to show up, put it in the same PCAP file. It'll show up in that same PCAP. You'll see 2 entries, and you'll see the milliseconds or microseconds or whatever difference between each of those. And now you know how long this was in the firewall. Was it in there for 100 milliseconds, and this is what's causing the latency? Was it in there for 2 milliseconds? This is not what's causing your latency.
I know I'll have to use that in the future. So cool. That's good to know.
So I had, because I don't have enough VMs spun up on this, I had pre-captured one that was a DNS. I was looking for something specific to a DNS, and so let's say I want to build a custom filter based on a DNS setting in here. So I had captured some traffic yesterday. What's it doing? I had captured some traffic yesterday across various different sites that it's looking for. And so like one of those is this malware don't need coffee. Let's say I need a custom app ID for this site. If you look in here, you've got the various different filters. So you've got what is the query, flags. Here's where, well, let me scroll down a little bit. Queries, and there is the query that I'm looking at. So I click on that and I highlight, hey, here's what this is, here's the response, I know what section it's in. If I go back to that document that says, for a DNS, if I want to create something from a DNS, I'm going to do a Control F and search for DNS. Let's pattern match, we'll see what's in. So this is going to show you what kind of section that you're looking for inside a query. So if I'm looking for something specifically in answers, I'm looking for stuff inside of there that's highlighting the context of what I'm looking for. I'm going to keep on going. Authority, request header. So as you look at the request section, this is specifically what I'm looking for. This DNS query, I actually, as you're building any of these, you have to have, either it needs to be an integer that you're matching with, or if you're doing a pattern match, it needs to be a 7-byte minimum as you're building that query out, which is one of the key things that you need to look at. So if it's like, I don't know, abc.com might even make the 7 bytes, but usually you need 7 bytes minimum to be able to match something. This is telling you the format that you actually need to be able to do as you build that query out. So when I build this pattern in here, it's going to be a /x. That indicates that this is a hex match. Then I'm doing 03, so I need to match the next 3. Then if I wanted to match www, that's 777. The period is not actually in the packet, so the period gets omitted. Then I want to look at the next 16 bytes. So that's going to be how long this is, which matches that, and then the next 3 bytes. And then I'm going to end that pattern match. So as you look at, let's say, something like DNS, for example, this is what gets put in there that I want to be able to match this particular thing.
That's
so
hex, right?
What's that?
That's hex.
That's, yeah, so that DNS is matching the hex query because that's what's actually in the packet capture here. So that's what we're looking for. If you've got other things from like a URI perspective, it's actually going to match the URI settings. So you can match against that. But that's why this document that explains here's what you're looking for is really, really important when you get to the point of building app IDs, because that tells you how you're going to do the pattern match against that. Other like ones that have been useful is if you look SMB request share name. So I've done this with a couple other customers that have ITAR issues, or you want to be able to differentiate traffic to different shares that are sitting on the same server. Because by default, like if you do an SMB application, you can define, hey, I only want to allow SMB to the server, but you might have use cases where you're like, if they access this server, I either need to go to second factor authentication because this is like a critical share on this server, where this other share is not a critical share. I don't need to do that. Or if they're coming from this location, they are allowed to access this because of government compliance. If they're coming from this location, they're not allowed to access this share, even though it's on the same server.
So you're saying you could literally just find the search pattern, and that would be considered, just that one thing would be considered an app ID. So you're saying like
or a threat
SMB share dash, ITAR, and then
correct.
You could include whatever shares are the ITAR shares, make it a custom app ID, sneak
yep.
it in the policy,
yep.
and then require, block it or whatever you want to do two-factor.
Yep.
That's really
This could come in handy. We have a couple of use cases.
Or a threat ID. So this can be an app ID, but also think about it from a threat perspective. So where is it easier to do? So in the other case that we did it as a threat ID because they wanted to allow SMB into the server. That's easier to do. But if they were coming from this security zone that was the non-ITAR compliant security zone, then it triggered, and they tried to reach this, it triggered the IPS signature that was this custom threat or custom vulnerability, and that shut down that access.
So what if you were trying to use this type of scenario with a DFS environment? I asked people that haven't actually been captured first on the DFS to see, it's essentially just a pointer. Do you think I would still need to do a DFS path along with the actual SMB path?
I am not positive how it's going to show up in here.
Because then I'm also wondering if you do it for one, it's going to use something like DFS to expand it and make it,
If you can make it, all we're matching on is the search pattern. So if somebody can basically host something and make it match that search pattern, then it would be spoofable at that level. So that's why, as you're doing this is getting like way down into the weeds of things that you need to be careful what you're doing.
That's really cool.
But you could do like
that's a really cool use case.
You could do multiple different patterns. Like you say this, but it has to come from this like source zone or whatever.
So the actual XML is Boolean, is it and ors kind of logic?
Yeah. So if you go into the policy, for example, oops, I'm gonna use a different one. So I built one that said this was for SharePoint because I wanted to have a policy where I was only allowed to come to my SharePoint server. This was before we had host headers, and so you could force that. So I was saying, hey, this is a business application. I did identify a parent application of Office 365. So it's important if you're doing that you identify some of those pieces correctly. And it wasn't identifying any of these, but I said, here is the type of stuff that I want to be able to use in security profiles. So I'm specifically activating, these are the types of things that when I turn on my security profiles, I want to be able to look at this. So you can trigger that or not trigger it based upon what your need is. And then as I look at the signature, you can build conditions based on that. So you can add and or conditions and kind of tie them together. So these are all, I would have multiple and conditions that I would match initially, and then you can have multiple other matches inside of that if it's like,
that's cool.
Click on side of add or condition here. So I can add additional qualifiers inside of that match that I'm building these out. So an example, another example that I've heard of, I haven't seen this one, is you've got a legacy application that you have to use something like Internet Explorer 8 to be able to get to this legacy application. You don't want people to ever use Internet Explorer 8 to go to any other thing outside of this one legacy application that's hosted, you can build a host header and say, I'm looking for the Internet Explorer 8 agent setting. If I see Internet Explorer 8 agent, then I'm going to allow you to get to this custom application or this custom website. If that is not the use case and you're not matching those, then you're not able to use Internet Explorer 8.
Well, that gave me a great idea.
Wow.
So that's what we're looking at, and this is the matching. So this is matching subdomain here specifically. So you saw that this SharePoint.com, I've got the pattern that I'm matching there, but it's matching the subdomain of PaloAltoNetworks.com. So it's going to say only if you match this, this is what defines that subdomain for our environment. And so now I could say, hey, I want to allow uploads to this. So, or if it's not matching this particular application, it's just matching like Office 365 Enterprise, I only want to allow downloads, not uploads.
Yes.
Other questions on this?
It's really cool.
Do you see a lot of your customers doing this?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
User ID just gave me
You were asking, like, no, it was you who were asking about, like, who's the advanced. This is definitely once you get to the advanced level, but I knew there was a whole bunch of people that had, at the last meeting, that had wanted to see this. And, like, why is this important? What is the power and the capability? This is the power and capability of the types of stuff you can do. A lot of people don't take the step of getting here.
Because they don't have the time or resources to do that stuff. But if you're in a large company, like I know Allstate, like they have a lot of people that work on this kind of stuff. So I'm thinking if you were dedicated to get to this level, I mean, that would be really great.
Well, and you can, if you have an application that is specifically something that is corporately available or like going to be globally available because it's a commercial thing, and you can build it yourself, please submit it to us so we can validate it and publish it out as well. And we'll help you, like if you don't know what to do, like I've had some Oracle, there was you guys, it was some Oracle things, that there were some Oracle subdomains that they were trying to do and Oracle subfunctions that we had gone through this process because there was something specific that Oracle was doing that she wanted to be able to handle separately to allow this like sub function that Oracle was doing. So we went through that custom app ID process, and when you work through that, it does take a long time. Like it's gonna seem like it goes into a black hole working with that team because they've got thousands of requests to build applications to be able to do this.
I can only imagine if you got a successful app ID built yourself, but it was like something popular, like if we were to share it with Palo Alto,
Then it's going to be much quicker to get through the process. If you, like usually what slows down is there's not enough data because people aren't able to get packet captures from all of the places that they need to be able to provide the full context for that team to be able to actually turn this around quick. When you've got it narrowed down and you're like, this is what I need, here's what it is, I've tested it out, this works all the time, and you supply like the supporting information, then it's much quicker to turn around. One of the other things is you're doing this, that people, if you look at like what causes commit times to go up on a box, doing custom applications and custom vulnerability signatures is probably one of the top ones that's going to cause commit times to increase on a box. So you also want to like have this balance where if it's needed, definitely use it. You don't want to go like overboard and do hundreds of these. Because when we have our app IDs that are essentially doing the same thing, we're compiling them in a binary format, so it processes much faster. This is not going to be processing that same way or essentially it's like compiling that into it so it can process on the data plane to go, but it's a lot extra work to do it this way. So it's just a cautionary.
Yeah, basically if you figure it out, don't go crazy with it.
But that's just the initial commit, or would that be every?
That's the initial. Well, it's going to be commits once it's in there. It's going to have to basically redo that.
So even more of a reason to get it to Palo so you can get it in the binary.
Yeah.
So you can take it out of your custom stuff.
Yeah, but you're not going to notice it with like ones or twos. It's if you go crazy and you do lots.
500
Yes.
custom apps.
Correct. And if you've got a specific use case, then that's a good reason to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying the support would still be able to combine your for your own custom use case if you need to?
They would have to be approved to and basically be pushed out to the entire customer base. Like they would be an actual app ID to have that happen.
So I'm sure someone at Palo Alto now was just like, yeah, this sounds like something popular enough that we're going to have more requests for this, so we'll implement it. But
Yep.
if it's like your homegrown internal,
Right. Then it's not going to
CRM,
be, yeah,
you're like, yeah, there's no reason to ever do that.
correct. Other questions? Thoughts?
So the only reason you don't see this happening a lot is because if you do a custom app, you need to update your stuff every time something changes.
Yeah.
That's also true.
So you can break your policy just because with them when you change the app, anything like that. So that when we do it, we try to work directly with the developer and we then send those updates, once a month, so you see the best.
Yeah, TLS 1.3 goes out and then you can't hit certain headers you were looking for. And
Yep. Is this what you guys wanted to see when all of you were asking about custom app IDs?
Yeah, because I feel like getting to this level, you're not going to find on like a YouTube video. You're not going to find necessarily easily on Google, right? You're going to have to talk to someone like you.
There are some on the live site. I think there's a couple of videos. If I remember right, some of those videos are usually around like SSL type of stuff. Like you're going to a particular website and that website for you becomes an application because you need to do QoS or you need to do something.
I've noticed it's been really good about providing app IDs for merchant madness that you were mentioning earlier. That was one thing we actually talked about. I'm shocked actually. Just search to see if I could look on how to do an app ID. You guys already have them out.
Yeah.
So just important to fast.
Most major sporting events we have one. So World Series, NBA, Final Four, or the college playoffs. We usually have it. So most major sporting events that have an impact to customers' networks because people are doing that, we usually release a custom app ID for it.
the solar, after the inauguration, our network got hammered. So Doug had me go out before and like, make sure you just queue us all streaming so they can't take all the bandwidth, and that really saved us. But March Madness was even better because I had the app, so I didn't really mess with anything else. So this is great because then if I know of something coming up like a solar eclipse again or something where you may not, Palo Alto may not create the app, I could go through and
Well, so like FIFA, for example, we had the FIFA one. The one here is for the U.S., where we basically said we're not going to be able to help completely. Is you had other regional countries that would have their own services that would come in and would be streaming it themselves.
Yeah.
So we're not identifying those other regional stuff, and we're saying like this is basically, we know the US, we know how this is going to look, this is why we can do this. If it's something that we don't know, that's not going to be covered in this custom app. So you're going to have to cover, like, if you're in China or if you're in Russia, whatever that local streaming service is over there,
but
go
you
ahead.
can almost use the XML file as a template and kind of look for, all right, this is what they were identifying, this is what I need to look for
Yep.
at our European site where they'd be going out to like the BBC or something like that. So.
Would you be able to share that template with that?
Yes, I can send that out.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Filiberto, you are up.